Hello and welcome to Pensions in 10 with me, David Brooks, and my colleague Simon Kew. This week we talk about politics and pensions, and there's been a lot of politics and pensions this week, and a very, very, very quick summary of the inheritance tax consultation. Okay, Simon, so it's been quite a week for pensions in the headlines of the Nationals and the like. So firstly, we're going to cover a few of these. Firstly, we've got a new pensions minister. So would you like to introduce everybody to him? He's not here, unfortunately, but in sort of in the only way you can, introduce us to our new pensions minister.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, he's not going to jump out from behind my shoulder, sadly. And it is him. It is Torsten Bell. So, Torsten, welcome, Minister, to the pensions brief. He's got a bit of form when it comes to pensions because he was chief exec of the Resolution Foundation for, I think it was 9 years. So, lots of background in looking into pensions and retirement. So hopefully we'll bring that to the role as well. Emma Reynolds has moved on. It's a promotion to the Treasury. I think it's secretary to the City's Minister or something like that, or City's Secretary, whatever. Who knows what's happening at the Treasury? It's a behemoth. But who knows what the roles are, what the pecking order is? I certainly don't. Clearly. So, yes, we have a new pensions minister, Torsten Bell. Haven't heard anything yet, although he's only been in post for a week, so that's understandable. There's been an awful lot in the press, Dave, and I'll say hyperbole rather than hyperbole, because there was a bit of hyperbole over my pronunciation of hyperbole. So hyperbole. Around his appointment because of some of the things that came out from the Resolution Foundation whilst he was in situ. And just because he was the chief exec of the Resolution Foundation doesn't mean that he's immediately going to walk into the pensions brief and go, I want to do all of that, please, because it doesn't work like that. No. I mean, what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's all sorts of things around auto enrollment increases and some other things the Resolution Foundation have said in the past. I think the path of government is quite clear. I don't think anything's going to change dramatically. We've got last week we had the deadline for the consultation on the unlocking investments, and I don't see that particularly changing. And we've also got the second review, which was already been delayed to later on this year. I think Torsten is incredibly experienced. As you've given his background, he's got a lot of experience in pensions and economics, and so and he was tipped. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I tipped him to be pensions minister in the first place. So I'm pretty chuffed he's in situ. I think he'll have some good ideas, and I think he's got a good understanding of the brief. So I'm hoping for some good ideas coming through. But he was in government anyway. He was working for the government anyway. So his ideas probably wouldn't have been too far from the years of Emma when she was in place. So I don't see a massive change in direction. Yes, we've got the pensions review to come, and that'll be when he'll show his thoughts then. So yeah, I think it's a great appointment. Nothing against Emma; she was doing a great job too. But yeah, I think it's a great appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also got to remember as well that Treasury holds the purse strings. So all the great ideas in the world come to naught if there isn't the money to pay for them or to back them. So we've got to remember Treasury really calls the shots. So whilst it will be fabulous to hear what Torsten has to say as pensions minister and what influence he can bring, and as you rightly say, I mean, he's been connected with the Labour Party for a good number of years, former advisor to Ed Miliband, of course. So his voice will be very much welcomed and respected by the government. But as I say, there's only a finite pot of money, and Rachel Reeves very definitely holds the purse strings there. So that's an interesting one. Talking of the left of politics, Dave, the Fabian Society, who I only found out when we were planning this earlier this morning, were named after a Roman general, which I like to know these things. I didn't know that. Yeah. But yes, the Fabian Society, what have they been talking about?
So this is a story that's going to run, I think, throughout the year, probably beyond, mainly because the Work and Pensions Committee are interested in it, and that topic is pensioner poverty. So they've done a study into pensioners and are saying that there are more people in pensioner poverty than has been previously, with numbers up, and particularly amongst those pensioners who are renting. They're seeing that as a major issue. So they're calling on the government to do more about that. and target support for the poorer pensioners we have. I think they're concerned. There's a rhetoric that goes around that the generation of pensioners we have are the richest there's ever been, and that is true in aggregate, but that doesn't mean that everybody is experiencing that same thing. And so giving targeted support for those people should be a focus of the government. And things like the winter fuel payment, the way that's been introduced, has caused some issues, I am sure. So they're concerned about that. And that actually links to another major news story from the last week, where Kemi Badenoch was talking about state pensions and what the Conservatives' plans might be for those. And so she was asked about the triple lock, and they're talking about means testing the state pension. And there's been a lot of misquoting, and there's a lot of misunderstanding of what she was saying. And so we've had headlines in the Daily Express about 11 million people having their state pensions slashed and these kind of things, which wasn't what Kemi was saying at all, in my view. I think Kemi was quite clearly talking about the fact that we need to means test something, probably, but how is very difficult. I'm pretty dead against means testing of state benefits as much as possible, because it causes problems with people accessing them. People don't sign up for them properly. They're expensive to run. Where do you draw the line? These kind of things. And I'd rather people do it the other way and tax people differently. If you think someone's too rich, tax them. That seems an easier way of doing it. But it makes having this conversation very hard. If you say one thing, like someone's going to have to talk about state pension age soon, as in the Labour government, they're going to have to start talking about state pension age soon. There's a review due. They need to talk about the triple lock sometime soon, and then there'll be headlines: state pension age going up to 75, or triple lock being slashed, and all this kind of stuff. And to use your favourite word, it doesn't need to have that much hyperbole about it. It just needs to be a grown-up adult. Sorry, I can resist it. It needs to be a grown-up adult conversation. The government, we cannot, as a country, afford the state pension bill that we have, and we need to make sure that our money is being spent in the most efficient way possible.
And just for completeness, Dave, we've looked at the left of politics, we've looked at the right of politics, the sort of centre left of politics. The Lib Dems are launching an attack campaign on Kemi Badenoch and the Tories, saying that the Tories will slash all pensioners' benefits. I'm paraphrasing slightly, so no doubt we'll see that in the press in the coming days. So pensions is, we said earlier when we were planning, a political hot potato, and that doesn't seem to be going anywhere any soon. We've got to cut through this fog of extreme language to get down to what actually is happening. So triple lock, we've spoken about triple lock before. It's heinously expensive. If we're looking through the headlines, and again, I'm only looking at headlines, so I've not seen the actual quote, but Labour apparently have said that they're committed to the triple lock, but they can't guarantee that it will be here for the length of this Parliament, because it's hugely expensive. So what that may or may not look like, we don't know yet. We simply don't. But if it is too expensive, what do we do? What do we put in place to make sure those at most risk, those on the breadline, those that desperately need this money, still continue to get it? And those that don't, and your point there, maybe tax other higher earners, or sort of the multi-millions of super rich businesses that aren't paying any tax in the UK, find other ways to generate revenue rather than taking it away from the people that desperately need it. That's the conversation that needs to be had, not all of this ludicrous language about slashing benefits and means testing state pension, which we've said before. I would be astounded if anyone looked at means testing the state pension in this Parliament or indeed the next. I don't think that is very, very likely. I could be wrong. I could be proven wrong. You never know what the politicians are going to do. But my goodness, that would be an unpopular move. And let's be honest, you've got a relatively short-term view from each government, because they don't want to hack off the electorate to a point where they lose the next election. So that will always be at the back of mind. Exactly that, Dave. Let's cut through all the nonsense. Let's have a proper adult conversation.
Just one thing on means testing. I know we've overrun on this story, but just on the means testing thing, I mean, if you did means test the state pension, you'd have to rethink the whole pensions system. Because as soon as you start saying, well, if I'm a lower earner and I'm going to get the state pension means tested, then there's no point me being in a pension scheme, because every pound I save is a pound the government are going to take off me. So straight away, it doesn't work. And as I keep going on about, and as we do talk about quite regularly, is we need to have a pension system that works for these people. I'm looking at the Fabian Society story. We need a pension system that helps people. We don't want people living in poverty. Help those people, and let's help people that don't necessarily help themselves. What do they need? Do they need a means tested pension? If they do, then let's get them out of pensions and stick them in something else and have savings in another way, if you are going to do that. But means testing a future state pension just seems a complete non-starter, unless we're going to rip up everything and start again, and I don't think we're going to do that either. So means testing is not going to happen. Those headlines stick, though. The amount of times we've had it when people see it, I know a number of young people, I'm classing myself in this, I'm in my late 40s now, but people who were born in the 70s, I've read on Twitter saying, when I was growing up, I knew the state pension would be gone. It would definitely be gone by the time I get there. The state pension isn't going to go. That is not going to happen. I just find that myth so irritating. If you think how much state pension we spend now, do you think the government is suddenly going to say, "Oh, no state pension for anybody"? The pension poverty numbers will go through the roof. That's just not realistic. So I just think, but the headlines stick. Anyway, we've gone on too long. Got to stop.
Dave, we seem to be overrunning this week, but hey, that's a really good conversation. Can you talk to us about IHT PDQ, please?
Yes, I will do. Start the stopwatch. I won't go any more than 1 minute, I hope. Right. Yeah, so the IHT consultation finishes on Wednesday, or closes on Wednesday. And that's the one talking about bringing pretty much all pension lump sums, and some pensions even, into the remit for inheritance tax when paid after April 2027. So we've submitted our consultation response as well into that. So hopefully that will be listened to. The consultation itself is very process driven. So it's a lot about how people go about reporting the tax, and the pension administrators pay it, and these kind of things. So I won't bore you with those details, although the short answer is it doesn't really work. Yes, there are issues there. Some of the deadlines are too short, and it's going to be difficult. We've also included in our response some comments about the policy idea in general. I think I'm supportive in principle of people being encouraged to use their pensions for pensions rather than pensions for wealth transfer. So I'm kind of warm on that, but I'm a bit more worried about some of the lump sums that might come from pension schemes, such as 5-year guarantees for pensioners and death in service benefits for people that are working. I think they should still be exempt, because they're not wealth transfers, and especially death in service lump sums. If someone dies of a working age, there's a high chance they're leaving a family and partners and people who, in the most tragic circumstances, are left with nothing, or without the main breadwinner, or their income is going to be massively reduced, and obviously their lives have been incredibly, terribly hit at the same time. And having inheritance tax to pay does not seem right to me. So I'd like to see the government have a think about how that works. It may not raise much money in the first place from tax anyway, so it could be an easy one to do. So we'll keep our eye on it, and we're expecting legislation this year, so we'll see.
Well, dear viewer and listener, it's time for Dave and I to tuck away our soapboxes and start the week. Thank you very much for joining us on this week's Pensions in 10 with my colleague Dave Brooks and me, Simon Kew. It's been lovely to have you with us. I hope you've been doing something fun while you've been listening or watching to us this week. If not, try and schedule that for next week, when we will be back with another Pensions in 10. Thanks so much. Take care.